I think it was very hurtful, and it's hard when someone plays a victim all the time and is a bully. I heard that Carson is now HOH.
Okay, yeah, so let's start off. What's your reaction to that?
That is exactly why I took the swing, because I knew Carson had to come down because that's who they were aiming for. And I had to save Carson because I love Carson to death. And I'm like, I'd rather go home than have Carson leave this house, because obviously he's better at the memory comps. And I knew as they went on, they'd be more like of those type of memory comps. And if it came down to it, if it came down to a physical comp, the only person that could compete with Miesha is me or Todrick. And obviously we know where Todrick stands. And so I was like, well, let's hope they're all mental and Carson can win this and, do exactly what I wanted to happen, even though I sacrificed myself.
Let's talk about Todrick. What did you think of his goodbye message to you?
I mean, the way he talked to me yesterday, it wasn't a surprise. I think it was very hurtful, and it's hard when someone plays a victim all the time and is a bully. And that's how I felt, like, especially coming out of it. Like I felt horrible. Like I felt I did Todrick completely wrong. And then when I came out and everybody was like, talking about Todrick the way they were. And I was like, so I wasn't crazy? Like, cause you're in the house and you feel like you're crazy. I mean, I felt like about 2 inches tall yesterday in the diary room before the vote and before everything, that I just really, basically ran over someone's puppy, and it sucked, especially when I look back and I'm like, what did I do? I think it hurt when he brought my family. Like yesterday we were in this room and we were talking about something, and he started talking about my son and how my son is going to be embarrassed by me and all these things. And, that kind of really hurt. That's the only time I actually fought back. And I was like, I'm sorry, what did you because he just said it walking away. And he goes, oh, you heard me. And I was just kind of like, you bring my family into this and, we've got problems, because this is a game.
You came into this game knowing you might have to lie, but you were trying not to. You didn't tell Miesha what she wanted to hear. Do you regret that, or did you stand by that, I guess, at this point?
No, 1000%. No, because I knew she was looking at me, and I knew I could tell her exactly what she wanted to hear that would be the truth. Mm-hmm. Because what she said straight up to me was, you are voting Carson out, right? And I could have said, yes. If Carson's on the block, I am voting him out, but I felt like that was even deceiving. So I had to not tell her. And by telling her, I know that I told her, because we did have this honest relationship. And, no matter what anybody else in the house or outside looks at with Miesha, I really had a good trust with her. And she was, when I was walking out, when knew I was getting voted out, it was hard watching her like just upset with me. That was what really killed me.
I feel like you guys will be fine outside the house.
I hope so. I hope she sees everything that was going on and understands that, because the whole way there were times, and Todrick, I guess, was listening in one of the doors one time when I told her, and I'm like, I've got you, and so she knew that I didn't have Todrick, and Todrick knew I didn't have Todrick, but he was gunning for me anyway, so.
Well, I want to also talk about Shayna, because I really liked your relationship with her. I thought you both had your heads in the game. We were pulling for you guys to use that veto last week. Why didn't you use it? Well, not you, Shayna.
Yeah, because it was really kind of last minute, and there were two factors. One of the factors was that then I thought I would definitely be breaking trust with someone, because our whole point was to establish trust and to let them know that, sure, we voted with you guys. Now it's my HOH, but we want to be honest and trustworthy with you guys. And, it felt like I would really have been doing a dirty if I did that. And the second one was, we had to rely on, because going into it, our thought was to take Chris Kattan down. But Chris didn't understand the game at all. And it was so difficult. And it was because before that, he'd screamed at me, because he was like, no. Like, he was like, I understand why you put me up and whatever. We don't talk game. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, there's many reasons, but yeah. And then, 15 minutes later, he was doing something. He was upset that Mirai was the target. And he looked at me and he's like screaming, F this. And why did you put me on the block? Or I don't understand. Like because we don't talk. And I was like, oh my God, you have no idea what's going on. I'm like, if I pull him down and need his vote, I don't know what he's going to do. Cause I'm assuming he's going to try to keep her, but he was such a wild card. And then the other regret that I have is right before it happened, Mirai came to the back room and, tried one last dish effort with me and Shayna and said, I'd really like it if you use the thing. And she walked out and I was like, yeah, right. Like, why would I, you're kind of my target. And as we were walking back in, I kind of thought, oh my God, like we could have made a deal with her and said, if we pull you off, just vote whoever we put up in your place out and we'll promise to pull you off. But I think it was too risky and, there was too much involved. And I felt like I definitely, like, if you think that I feel bad now that they say that I'm going against everything, then I would have felt horrible. Yeah. So that's kind of why.
I see. Speaking of Mirai, we didn't really see a lot before the feeds came on. Mm-hmm. She told me that you guys just had different vibes. Like, what was the disconnect there with you guys?
It was just a lot of, I was kind of, I was like an older brother to her and like I was really helping her and I could see that she was really, hurting in the house and it was hard for her. So I kind of was like the whole time trying to help her along and always checking in on her. And she had some real problems with the way Todd was, speaking. And, obviously there was a lot in her mind about her race and she was very, adamant about, looking good for her race. And, I was like, I get it. I know you walked in here and there was nobody that looks like you in the house, trying to help her with that and trying to say, I've got you. And with the whole thing with Todd, it was like, this big blow up happened and there was all this craziness going down. And then she kind of just threw me under the bus for absolutely no reason. And I was like, I've had your back this whole time. I've done nothing but been, completely supportive to you. So when that happened, it really kind of changed my eye of her. And then she went to Miesha and was all in Miesha's pocket and Miesha and them were using each other. So, I think which kind of went with the whole game we were playing of, let's act like we're mad at somebody else. But meanwhile, we're picking off all these people around Miesha because that side of the house is way too powerful. And we've got to get all these people that are trying to get in with Miesha. And I thought it would have been Mirai. And then the next week we could have got Todd. And then, finally got Todrick. And, I wanted Miesha to stay. I wanted Miesha to win it, but she just had too many people in her ear and too many people on that side. And, I could tell there were times where, oh no, you're really close, but they'd never mention Shayna. Meanwhile, Shayna and I are like the same person and they're not mentioning Shayna at all. Like I've heard a couple times, well, then that's when Shayna would go up. And I'm like, you told Shayna we were in a Final Four and, it was just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that Final Four was BS.
It was so BS.
He also has a Final Four, I guess, with Lamar and Todd and Todrick. So
yeah, that's what I figured that. And that's why I was like, what do you think I'm going to do? Like, of course I'm going to I'm not stupid. I can see this stuff going on. But they made it more than a game. That's why I hurt because basically they got, which if you really think about it, they just got wind that I was doing something and struck at me first. They put me on the block.
Yeah.
They put me on the block because I wouldn't say I was voting this person out. So they put me on the block to send me home. And meanwhile, I'm freaking out over a move I could have made. But it made me feel relieved when I got put on the block because I felt like I'm out of this shadow now and I can play a game. Whether I go home or not, we can play a game and we can attack them. So
right, because the lines were drawn at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
How much, I know you watched Big Brother before. Did you get advice from Lance, any of your friends? Like, how'd you prepare to go in the house, I guess? And was it what you expected?
They told us really not to contact people. But, I had a couple friends and, it was mostly just, what do I wear? Or what do I bring in? Or, is there anything that you went in wishing you would have brought and you didn't bring? And, that kind of thing. Whereas, it wasn't really, I wanted to stay true to the game and, kind of where it was funny because that's how I knew Todrick was on the show, because when I talk to people, they're like, oh, Todrick's already called me and done all this. And I was like, that's strange.
I have to wrap up, but my last question is, obviously you're going to be voting for a winner. Who are you rooting for, and what factors are going to go into your vote?
By far, I'm rooting for Shayna. Obviously, Shayna's my number one. It's really tough number two, because it would either be Carson or Miesha. And it's just because I really had a good relationship with Miesha in there. Anywhere past that, maybe, Cynthia probably next. And then the other ones, I don't think are really playing a game, or, they're kind of just floating around and throwing.
Lamar doesn't know where he is.
Lamar didn't know that when he was in the diary room that was being filmed for television. He thought that was just talking to producers. So